Hello, welcome to the third episode of a Complexity FM podcast. Today we are here with Dominik Sumer, creator of Snapify and Vemetric. Maybe Dominik, you can introduce yourself a little bit, your background.
Yeah, sure. So first, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on your podcast here, the third episode. I'm Dominik. I'm a software developer, professional software developer since about 12 years. So right after school, I started with coding, and since then I'm doing it professionally. A lot of things have changed since then, and especially in the last years with AI, I'm starting to feel a bit old already, especially because I started with this craft from this very beginning. But yeah, it's still my passion, and as you mentioned, I'm also working on my own products. My big goal still is to make a living from those products, and yeah, that's a short introduction from my side.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Or
Yeah, okay. So maybe I would start with the way I get to know you, which is your product you did some time ago with your friend, which is called Snapify. So maybe just tell us how did you come up with that idea, because this product is pretty popular, I think mainly in the Python community, for creating these beautiful code snippets we can share as images.
Exactly, yeah. So I would say Snapify is the biggest project or product I personally worked on. So in terms of my own products, and it started in around 2021 when my friend and I already had our first product, which back in the day was some sort of a Stack Overflow clone. And I mean, at least until now, it would have already been dead anyway. But yeah, back in the days, we did that thing, but it wasn't even successful back then because we couldn't get the community started. And so we thought, what is the next thing we could do or tackle? We just wanted to start our next product. And back then, in the Twitter community, it was still Twitter back then, the developers shared their code snippets, tutorials, and so on. And I think there was this tool called Carbon, and also 1 to 2 other tools. And we said, hey, we think that we can make this better, more beautiful, better UX, better UI. Let's just start with working on that. And then it sort of went viral, and that gave us the motivation to move on for at least 2 to 3 years, where we worked on it very heavily. It even evolved from a simple code snippet sharing tool into a PowerPoint alternative for developers, because now you can create slides and animations, you can export them into videos. Things like you also see nowadays where people create code animations where you see the code refactoring and it changes. And yeah, that's how we came to that idea and how we started working on it, because on Twitter we saw developers sharing their code snippets or tutorials in specific ways. And we thought that we could try to make a better product there. And we started very simple, and yeah, from there it evolved into what it is today.
Cool, pretty cool. I like that product. I was using it and I'm using it. I even plan to use it more for our Stelvio stuff. But then you essentially kind of stopped working on this, like, not really full time, but you changed your focus, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was already back in end of 2023 or beginning of 2024 when also Anki and I, so say broke up our company and decided to focus on different things. And it was also the time when I worked really hard on Snapify for about 3 to 4 years, really full focus on that. And Yeah, I'm not sure how to describe it so that people can imagine it, but Snapify is basically like a Figma for code snippets, and it's really sophisticated what you can do in it already if you just have a look at it basically. And there is a code snippet and a gradient background. That's not very much, but in the end you can drag arrows around, spend so much time on, so to say, physics and the editor. So I was really focused on that one product, and I also wanted to try something else while still keeping it, maintaining it. I mean, I'm maintaining it until today. It's still running. It still has customers. It's still a profitable product. I'm still happy about Snapify. But yeah, after some time, then I just decided that I also want to try something else. And at the moment, I'm also working on a new product called Vemetric, which is basically a web and product analytics tool, which is basically, or the thing, or while working on Snapify, I already thought a lot about what could be another product idea which I want to work on, what could be the next thing. And I never was really happy with the product analytics tools out there. And it always was in the back of my mind, should I try it? Should I not try it? And then I just decided to give it a go. I mean, this market is very tough, and there are so many competitors. At least since I'm working on Vemetric and launched it, I think there were like 10 other really high quality solutions also launched on that market. So it's very, very competitive. And I'm not sure if I would have started with it today again. But here I am. I enjoy working on it a lot, and it's still a space which I like working on. And it was just this: I have my own product. I want to understand how my users are using my product. I wasn't 100% happy with the existing solutions. Basically the same like it was the case with Snapify. And then I just said, okay, I'm going to build my own. And I also learned a lot there, because my main focus was always on the UI side, which you can maybe see a lot in Snapify, because Snapify is basically 80 to 90% front end, if not even more. It's the editor, it's a graphics editor. And with Vemetric, I wouldn't say so there, with this analytics data and ingestion flow and what you have to think about in the backend and with infrastructure, DevOps. So I also was in a very different place there, which was also refreshing.
So I really like it because both products were like born like from a personal need. Probably that's the best way to start products as a developer, because like I really feel is I mean, I'm not that much of an analytics guy, but I really enjoyed Snapify always when using it, and there's so much dedication to details inside that's really cool. Really really cool. Speaking of which, you mentioned that you started out with like a Snap or Stack Overflow alternative, and that didn't really work out because of you didn't just get the customers or users on board. How is distribution for those products, for those that are profitable right now? How do you market it as a solo dev? How do you get an audience for that?
Yeah, I would say mainly building in public, and that worked a lot, or really very good for Snapify, because back then the building public community was a lot different than it is now, and Twitter was so different, and the people, I mean, I think it still works today, but it's so different, and the noise got so much more in the past 4 years. Back then, if you genuinely built your product, you shared the progress, what you're working on, the difficult problems you're solving, and you do that in an interesting way, that also inevitably led to users, at least for Snapify, because my audience were some sort of developers and the tool were for developers, and then they were started sharing with Snapify, and I shared what I was working on, and they saw, hey, this is a cool feature, I can drag the arrow around, and wow, now you can create slides with Snapify and videos, and hey, that might be useful for me if I want to share my tutorials. So for Snapify, it was really this some sort of viral effect of me building up the audience while working on the product, but also people starting to share stuff with Snapify. And then there was this some sort of momentum. There was really this year where I was so active and people enjoying my product updates, or in general live updates, so to say, on social media. And yeah, a very viral YouTube video that came out of the blue, which we never thought would be so successful, because it was on a channel with 0 subscribers. And things like this was really a momentum where things were picking up. And yeah, but the main thing, because you asked, I would say, was building in public, which was this whole start of this snowball, because I'm definitely not a marketing guy, and I'm definitely not a guy who enjoys to do marketing, which is my big flaw with reaching my goal.
Got it. And yet you choose like build in public as a theme for your posts, which I, at least for myself, would feel making me very vulnerable. Like if you say I'm working on a hard problem, there might be 100 people around saying, well, this is actually not hard. So did you ever feel like you held yourself back because of fear, shame, or anxiety in general?
I mean, regarding this, what you said, making myself vulnerable for people, maybe you meant like people could copy what I just do and also do it. Is that what you meant? Or
No, not the copycats necessarily. That's also a point, but I was more like, you are psychologically vulnerable, right? People might attack you of being a bad developer if you share a hard problem that other people would consider not being hard.
Imposter syndrome, or
Probably like that,
where, like,
yeah. Or like I don't really want to share that because I'm not proud of that particular part of my work or something like that. Or if you take build in public serious, you also post about failures, right? And admitting failures is always a hard thing.
yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. But to be honest, I really just shared the updates and what I'm currently thinking and what is the next thing with Snapify. I'm definitely a guy who overthinks a lot, I would say, and always thinks, what do other people think about me, and is this a good thing to post? But I sort of came into that loop where I felt very comfortable with these sharing updates, people, that it resonated a lot with the people, and therefore also this feeling got better over time. And it's also, for me, it started to be a big motivation, because I mean, back in the days, I had my friend, we were both exchanging, working on things, but we're still just the two of us. And as we started to get feedback from other people, they started to enjoy my work. This is really what sparked my motivation to take Snapify also from a simple code snippet sharing tool into a PowerPoint alternative, or maybe even a video animation tool, because I just enjoyed this feedback so much from the other people, and not just working in my own basement and not being able to tell anyone about it. I think this was always the big motivation factor for me, and where I then saw the pros overweigh the cons in that regard. And I always also tried to share failures. I also did that, but the main thing was just sharing progress, moving forward, trying to make this profitable and make a living from it. And yeah, And I really got motivation from the feedback. I really, this, like, you're sharing this in your own little community or something, and people are cheering with you and said, "Wow, Dominik, you're doing so cool things." And yeah, that's also something I have to admit I'm missing a bit now in this AI world, because now everyone can just one-shot things, and I don't get this feedback again that I got in the past, because people are also already so, yeah, wow, what's so special? I mean, you can just, one shot all of this. I mean, I would still say that some of the things I did in the past maybe are not one shotable, but still that, I have the feeling that it's not so easy anymore than it was in the past, because the people in their minds, there is no they are not so easy to, how to say, it's not easy to
impress them.
To impress them, exactly, than it was in the past. And that's also really something that's still, which I still miss a bit from the times in the past.
Maybe it will change when people get the full bill for the AI, by the token.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it gets cheaper, like everything in tech. I don't know, but that's a different discussion, I guess. But is that, would you say, is that the main thing that has changed? Because you talked about like how things have changed, especially on Twitter or on X. Is that the main thing that has changed? That people are just showcasing one-shot apps, or is there some different
I
things
think
in
it's
how people communicate? Or
do you mean changed for me, or
for you,
my
for your experience with building public?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it's the only thing, or also if it's, I mean, even, for example, if AI wasn't popping up in the past years, and things would have just continued without AI, for example, I'm not sure if this, what I experienced in the past, would still be as strong today, because sometimes people just are getting they are a fatigue of some kind of things, and it's always hard to stay in the to keep the attention of the people. Maybe even really AI is one thing, but social media in general, with every platform having video content pushing things, and you scrolling through timelines, and people spend on a post like for 0.5 seconds and then scroll further. I think that also got a lot worse in the past 4 years. And so, I think it's not only AI, it's a general shift in social media.
I was thinking the other day, and it's totally off topic. We can catch it up later, but I remember those, not sure if you remember the days of like RSS readers.
Oh yeah,
And
that
feeds.
newswire.
And I remember, like, I was just copy pasting URLs into my reader, and it was much different experience, because you open the reader and then every day you have maybe 5 blog articles, depending on how many people you put there, right? I didn't have like thousands, but I had maybe a few tens, maybe up to 100, and there was like 2-3 articles every day, and that was it pretty much. And I don't say I read them all, but at least I started reading them, right? And like maybe the focus window, attention window was much higher, even for me back then. A totally different experience, because you could kind of always go deeper into whatever that person has said, because now if you don't do anything catchy in your first line, like people just scroll by usually, right? And that was much different during those days. Anyways.
Absolutely.
I still wonder how this thing that people consider catchy is still catchy, right? Because if I see like an attention grabbing post that's obviously AI generated, I just scroll by. Don't know about you
I don't know,
guys,
but you still have like when Twitter or X or LinkedIn shows you something, and you see it has a lot of views or a lot of likes or something, and it's clearly AI, or it's clearly using some template like 5 ways to do whatever, right? Or like 3 best things to, all these kind of like templates you can see all around, and yet it's still, I don't know, for whatever
Yeah, I
reason,
don't know.
it's
I mean,
working.
I'm not saying that I'm completely resistant to it, but I'm just bored. It's
Yeah.
not original anymore.
But
It's like,
it keeps on
when you start like,
continuing.
yeah.
It at the moment I don't see it stopping. So
No,
my
absolutely not.
timeline is full with it, and that's really a thing I'm missing a lot from the past days. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it's going to develop further, and I'm missing some sort of a place. And I mean, a lot of people already said that in the past, but now of course they moved on. I miss a place like Twitter in 2022, and I'm not sure where and how such a place could come up from again, because of course you have communities where you can share things with others, but that's not the same, because Twitter were always like some sort of sub communities. With a little bit of luck, you got out into the wild, and then you got viral, and a lot more people got impressed by it, which of course for me and my goal is super helpful, because I need to spread the word, because I'm not a marketing guy. This is the only thing how I can people make my products, or can see my products, but also I don't want to sell something. And
Yeah.
this platform where you can do this doesn't really exist, because when you go on Reddit, you do the slightly thing of sharing something from yourself, you're banned. So
Band.
this
Yeah.
is the other extreme. And I'm really not sure where you can get this kind of thing again, which I also maybe feel a bit lost about it, because this was the marketing channel for me, which worked out so well, and now it's missing. But yeah, I'm definitely excited how it works out in the future, because I also think this human connection and not so attention grabbing thing, I'm not sure, I can't imagine that this is sustainable forever. I'm not sure.
Maybe we all need to dress up in a suit and get a nice picture on the LinkedIn and they move there. I don't know. Although there, I have to say, there you can see the same. It's like all like professionally dressed, but it's same templates, same AI posts and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yesterday,
just hope this is not the end game.
yesterday my dog died. Here's what that told me about marketing.
Yeah. Or long-term relationships, right? Like,
Oh yeah. I broke up. I messed up my marriage.
Yeah.
Here's how I can profit from that. But it puzzles me that I think, okay, call me old school, but I think the quality of comments and submissions on Hacker News is still, like, it's also worse than it was back in the day, but it's still relatively high. It's just not a place to connect with people.
I would say the Hacker News, what I like about Hacker News is, and it hurts me sometimes because we had stereo there twice. But at least you can be sure what you get there is honesty, and like super honesty from the heart. And sometimes it's hard for us creators, but like people are not ashamed to really tell you what they think of whatever you build. So
people always cite the Dropbox submission post.
And
then they say, oh, well, that's not a product. I could build that in 5 lines of shell script.
Yeah. Claude could build that in 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's today. Yeah.
Yeah, that's today. Yeah. Of course, yeah. I'm not back then.
But even in the past, someone could build it in 5 lines of scripting.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's what they told
that was the joke.
people.
Yes.
Maybe there is a new product. Build some better social network where we ban templates and AI, human only social network for old people. But not too old.
There's Facebook.
Not too old, not Facebook.
There's Facebook. Okay, not too old.
like
our
some
age.
kind of like I don't know. I was thinking like some kind of better version of RSS feeds where you need to, when you post something, it needs to be at least somewhere, and obviously it cannot follow these stupid templates, and we will check if it's AI or something. I don't know. I would enjoy something like that, but yeah, not gonna build it, I guess.
Yeah,
I
since
think
I tried the Stack Overflow alternative, I'm keeping my hands away from
Yeah,
things where you have this chicken egg problem.
yeah.
Where,
It's same as a marketplace, right? You need people
yeah,
to go there, and yeah.
it's not. At least you have to have a big investor to get things up
yeah,
the
and
ground.
even then, I mean, there is Blue Sky, there is Mastodon, or this, or even this didn't really
Yeah,
take
yeah,
off, right?
exactly. Yes, absolutely. It's such a hard space.
Yeah.
I'm a bit concerned. We mentioned AI a couple of times, but we didn't dig into it really. When I had my Buzz FM podcast, there was like this running joke on how many minutes it took for someone mentioning AI, but we kind of jumped around that topic.
Yeah, and I like that because I
Yeah,
have so many conversations where it's just the main topic. And
yeah.
I
It's
like that we not dig too deep into it yet.
what does yet mean? Do you want to share something?
Now we can dig deeper in the next minutes, and we can also, of course, talk about coding with AI. But I just wanted to mention that I like that it's not the first thing to jump right at.
I mean,
Yeah.
one thing that I would be interested in is you mentioned that if you show something, people will say, okay, AI could shot it, whether that's true or not. But that's what people say. And I was wondering, both of the products that you have are basically tooling, right? The one is analytics tooling, the other one is uh, like a repetitive graphic pattern tooling, if you want to say that in a broad sense. Um, does that really happen? Do you have like customer or losing customers because they say no, I'm going to build that myself with AI? How did AI impact not your work, but the way you attract customers?
Yeah. I mean, maybe first I say for Snapify, it was always a bit hard to keep customers because it's some sort of a creator tool. People start to create and say, okay, from today on, I'm going to start to post coding tutorials and this is the new thing and I'm doing it. And then after 3 months, they maybe don't do it as often anymore. And
Mm.
that's just the reality when it comes to that. They see other people and then they start a subscription and cancel it again. So it I learned it pretty fast with Snapify that also in this creator community the churn is always very high because even maybe they're not really not continuing with that, but they do it like twice a year and then they stop doing it and they're maybe coming back the next year and then they start creating again. But this is something I learned in this creator space with Snapify. Always was a bit hard to keep the customer staying. And but with Snapify, I wouldn't really say that this, hey, I'm building this on my own, is just a too common thing because
Mm.
at least the features the Snapify offers, if you really want to have them and use them, it's quite hard and still takes a lot of time to build it on your own. Then maybe nowadays it's just a question that if you could just let Claude Code design it for you or just code it or prompt it whatsoever, that's definitely also a thing that could happen nowadays because then you don't even need to build the tool yourself anymore. You just maybe get some prompts together and then get a nice graphic of your code snippet and do it like that. I mean, just openly speaking, that's definitely a thing you could do. But apart from that, I still have quite some customers that are still happy to have Snapify with their library and their dashboard and things they created in the past and they can copy. Like it still has value in there, but definitely I also think that maybe some users churn because of that. With the analytics space, I'm also seeing it more and more that people say, it's just analytics, I'm just tracking things and I'm just coding that myself and have my own server and then self-hosted. And Hetzner raises prices and now I'm paying more than maybe the subscription that my tool costs, but maybe that's also another topic. But there, I think I'm building this on my own is more present than with Snapify, because Snapify is really this sophisticated editor, and with analytics tools, people just think, hey, I'm just doing that on my own. It can't be too complicated.
It brings us to another topic, which is open source, and we can also discuss a Vemetric maybe in more detail here, but I'm just thinking from which angle to attack this. So Vemetric is also open source. So technically speaking, nobody needs to build it. They can just take it from you, right? It's public, and as far as they don't resell it or something, they can deploy it themselves and just use it, right? So the kind of the whole AI stuff doesn't apply here, I would say. Why did you open source it?
I actually, even already with Snapify or with other little projects I had in the past, I always had in mind that, or I always liked the open source movement, the open source communities. I mean, we developers are dependent on open source. I'm dependent on it since the very first time I started programming. Without open source, I couldn't build something on my own. And beautiful things like libraries and frameworks wouldn't exist. So I always wanted to give it a try it out, and also I also saw other successful products in the space, like Plausible and so on. And there I thought, hey, with Vemetric, it could be the right move, and I want to try it because with Snapify, I always was with, I spend so much in this sophisticated editor logic where I don't really see the benefit of you self-hosting it or something, which I didn't really make me do the step of open sourcing it. But with Vemetric, where it's definitely a thing where you could self-host it, or it's definitely reasonable. There I said, hey, I just want to give it a try, and I saw other. I think it's just also a good fit for this kind of market in analytics tools. It's a good fit for open source tools, and as I started in this market, then I also said I want to give it a try. I want to try developing it open source.
I have two follow-up questions on that. One is, do you think open sourcing Vemetric helps the project? Meaning, not help the project in the terms if you have any contributions, although we can discuss it later. But does it help like marketing or getting new customers? That's one question. The other question is, and now I forgot the other question. So let's answer the first question. I will think of the other one. Please.
I think it helps. I think it helps in terms of discovery. And together with open sourcing, I started creating different libraries for Vemetric, like a Python library, a Go library, where I also got contributions from others. So maybe, of course, you can also create those libraries if the tool is not open source, but somehow for me it's kind of tied together because I got contributions. I wasn't that familiar with Go and Python in the past, and the AI coding tools also weren't that good yet in the past to tackle that. And there I got contributions from others which helped me, and then those libraries again helped spreading the word for Vemetric. And in general, I just was then able to spread the word in some Reddit forums that are for open source. In general, it's also, as Vemetric is also privacy first and privacy focused, people love to see that it's open source and are able to inspect the source code. So I would, for now, still definitely see it as a net positive. I mean, I open sourced it before this big AI wave came, where also a lot of open source projects were thinking about quitting open source again or closing their source. So I was actually open sourcing before that. And luckily, I'm also not that big, so maybe I would get frustrated if some AI tool raiders raided my repository and I would have like 5,000 open pull requests. I think that's another story, but I'm not that big, or Vemetric is not that big. So at this current stage, I definitely think it helps. And yeah.
So
The
is it
question I forgot was
100%? Sorry.
Yeah, the question
go
I
ahead.
forgot was how many people are actually, or do you know if people are actually deploying themselves Vemetric?
No, and also that's a big point which I'm missing on, because I already want to have a self-hosted version, a really self-hosted version with a Docker image from my side, prepared for like at least half a year, and I still haven't found the time to finish that. So that's the big thing I'm still missing out. I don't have a proper self-hosting support where I think, hey, you just have to install this Docker image or have one-click solutions on Coolify or other platforms. That's still a big thing missing for Vemetric, and which could give the next big boost for me and would also help me market it better. So that's definitely something I need to tackle rather sooner than later, because I think that just having the source open is one thing, but the self-hosting area is another thing, which I think will help a lot here.
So your
Okay,
assumption actually is that you make self-hosting easier, potentially one click with Coolify or whatever other platforms, would actually make your business better, because as a consequence you would also get more paying customers.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is a bit of a hard question, or you could also compare it with a free plan, or I'm not sure, free plan of a product. I mean, at the moment, Vemetric also has a free plan without self-hosting, but you always see those discussions with indie builders don't have a free plan. It's not good for you. People should pay. But here, and it's again this thing of getting attention and getting the word out, like a free plan or people being able to for free self-host it and getting maybe evangelists of the product and helping me spread the word. For me, that's still helping me more than not have it, because it's just it ties again with the things I said in the beginning. I'm not a marketing guy. I need to have people spread my word. And there, I think it's helpful because it's okay for me to people just self-host it. Maybe they spread the word with a friend who doesn't want to self-host and they buy it. And maybe they reach a state where, just mentioned in the beginning, where the Hetzner costs get too much or they don't want to maintain it anymore, but they really like the metric, and then they switch to the cloud solution. And I just see so many successful examples where it works. So I also like this idea to do it that way.
So, but if I manage to self-host it, if I create my own Docker container for Vemetric, I get the exact same thing as the hosted solution, right? So it's not
Exactly.
that I
So
get premium features or anything.
that's the idea. I don't want to say maybe that it's like that forever. So at least the features that are currently here will always be included, but there might be some special features in the future. In that case, I just want to say never. But basically, for the near term, it's definitely the case, and always for the features we have at the moment in Vemetric. So yes, that's the case.
Yeah.
So
This is
how do
interesting.
you host it then? I mean, what's the infrastructure that you build the cloud solution on?
Coolify, basically on Hetzner servers.
Okay. So is it one container per customer, or is it kind of a
No.
multi-tenant?
First it's microservices, so there are already multiple containers which can be scaled, but then it's multi-tenant in those services, so all customers run on the same service, and these services can be scaled if needed, or the Hetzner service can be beefed up with more RAM. That's
Got it.
how it currently works with the current amount of customers.
Got it.
And that's also a thing which I absolutely tried to avoid for Snapify in the past, because there I focused so on this editor and I just want to get things out and want to have my main experience in the play with focusing on the front end and having things deployed on Versal, have the database on Supabase and so on. And with Vemetric, because of this, I went the other way around, because I had the self-hosting in mind straight from the beginning. And man, if I don't even self-host it on my own, how I want to be in, if I'm not in the game, how I want to tell other people, hey, you can self-host it. So that's also where I learned a lot in this space, and also why I wanted to self-host it on my own.
Got it. You had something?
Yeah, it's just this brings me a lot of thoughts. One is around the AI and the self-hosting, because whether it's self-hosting of open source project or paying someone to do it for you, or whether it's like AI can code it for me, you can buy eggs in the shop. Nothing is stopping you to actually buy chickens and have your own eggs, right? But like not many people do it. I mean, some people do if you have a house and stuff, right? And it applies to meat, applies to bread, applies to pasta, which you can all do home. You can do it all at home, but for some reason, you don't. And I think the same rule kind of applies here, right? Like you can make pasta at home, and it will be better than if you bought it in the shop, right? But like you burn X amount of hours, right? And then same applies to whether you want to buy something or spend 3 days discussing it with Claude. Same applies to whether you want to actually go to Hetzner, buy the server, deploy the server, remember login, monitor it, or you just pay, I don't know, $5-10 and you get the service. Yeah. So again, I think it makes sense. We as a people generally go for easier solution if that solution is reasonably good for the reasonable price. Therefore, I don't think like open source projects offering self-hosting are affected much. Nor do I think AI will actually. I don't believe all these. I don't believe any of these people who say SaaS is dead and like people can do stuff themselves. Well, they could also be full. And AI doesn't change that dramatically, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing, because like you said, people could do it before and people did it before, but how many people is always the question. And
Yeah.
a new technology comes up and you say, yeah, you can prompt yourself a whole business and keep it running forever, until the people see, hey, no, you can't just keep it running without maintenance. I mean, things will get better in the future again. Also, the agents will get better, no doubt in that, but it's still mental burden and things you have to, in some kind of way, maintain yourself. And that's always the thing with SaaS. Do you want to maintain, keep something in-house, or want something, be a service from someone else that provides the service to you? And there are even middle grounds in there where big company says, hey, we need to have the data in-house. It's now, for example, in this analytics space. So we some sort of need to have it in-house, but we don't want to manage it. So could maybe still manage it for us, but in our infrastructure. That could also be the case maybe in the future for Vemetric, for example. So it's always this nuance. And this is again, when we come back to this attention-grabbing social media bubble, or I don't know how to talk about it, but this is the thing. People just say, hey, you can now do this. Now everyone will do it. Now always will be like this. And that's also a problem of this culture. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
the AI cycles is trying to get attention of like I'm an AI person, so now I post, stuff about how AI is changing the world.
I
I
would.
mean, Anthropic is building in public, so basically, so they're just posting their models and what their development. I mean, yeah, it works
Here's
well
a
for
failure
them.
that we want to share. We got blocked by the U.S. government, but that's a different story. But I would like to put another angle on that on that threat to SaaS solutions. I think the threat to most SaaSes is not, well, I could build an exact copy of that product with AI and then self-host it, but I could change the entire interface. I mean, for example, calorie trackers. Everyone's building a calorie tracker or workout trackers or something like that. And I don't think people start copying a calorie tracker and a workout tracker in the same way they use these apps right now. They're just going to their Claude and have that connected to whatever data source they have. And then they ask, what should I eat next? And I see that happening. Most of those kind of subscriptions, I mean, the entire thing of SaaS started basically with indie developers replacing in-house Excel sheets and provided a better interface. But I think the main threat from AI in that regard is that people are just going to discuss those things with Claude directly. I mean, for example, for Snapify, it could be, hey, AI, I want these kind of pictures. This is my template, and here's my code. Please generate a picture for me. So I don't copy the editor. I change the way how do I get to the outcome.
But is that? Do you think that's where it's going? Like essentially chatbot text box solution to the UI?
No, apparently not in all cases. But I think in a lot of cases, yes, especially in the consumer market. Like I would rather have an agent running in the background gathering my nutrition and workout data from some sources and then occasionally ask it a question than to learn the intricacies of an app that basically makes me a bookkeeper of my own nutrition. So in that case, that is simplification. In other cases, for example, in the analytics space, I would not expect that because people still want to slice and dice through their analytics data, create charts and so on, and see beautiful stuff. And they don't want to go to a chatbot and ask it, how many visitors did I have today? That's not going to happen. But
maybe not for today, but so like dashboard of daily stats, it's one thing, but maybe they have a question like, what's the average daily visitors from USA, during whatever
sure.
And I think,
USA holidays or something, right? And that's
there is
harder
always
to do.
there's also a nuance in this. Does it has to be a chatbot or a UI? I think there will also be things in between, and this term like generative UI will definitely get bigger, I think. Also, for example, in spaces like analytics, where you still query things and then the UI forms up like how you need it at the moment, like just a static dashboard you can see every day. And I think in that direction, definitely something will happen. But to your first thing with the threat to SaaS, I mean, big players that were there before AI still have skin in the game and can react to that because they have the data. They can, for example, if you provide an MCP to your data, Vemetric or the analytics solution still has this ingestion system, which is how you collect the data, which is very robust and works and has spot detection and whatsoever. But then you just provide an MCP server and now you can talk to it with your agent.
Correct.
And so it's also not like a threat in that regard. Okay, you can just throw away that product. I will build my own and it will be a lot better. I mean, those big players can react as well. That's the one thing. And then the other thing is No, I forgot what the other thing was. Let me quickly think. Okay, no, I forgot the other thing. But to the threat is, I mean, the big players can react, and they can. For example, I see it with Posthoc, who work a lot in that direction and offer AI solutions and work in that regard. So it's always still not just SaaS is dead, and you can everything will has churn and people build something new. But yeah, now I remember what this other thing that I want to say. Like, for example, the calorie tracker you mentioned, there will always be new players in different markets. There will always be new solutions popping up. And for nowadays, probably there will be AI first and try to solve things differently. But that was also the case before AI. In every market, there were new players that tried to solve things differently. But also the big players always had time to adapt. And with AI still, I think data means a lot. And if you help collecting data, managing data, and then just provide the tools, yeah, that's just for...
I'll be totally honest. I think AI first is a bullshit. And snapping the chatbot user interface instead of actually thinking hard for your users to give you proper user interface is a strategy that will not work for anybody pretty much. There are a few cases, obviously. Sometimes the chatbot might be useful for like not everyday queries, for some special cases where chatbot is definitely better than learning some custom nutrition SQL stuff to get some weird information. But for things like what should I eat next, well, if that's clearly something users care about, I don't think they want to type it in 3 times a day, right? So that should be some kind of button, or actually when you open it up, it should be the thing you see or the thing you can scroll to, just as an example. So I think all this, AI first, and let's just put the chatbot text box everywhere is kind of, I get why a lot of companies do it, because if you don't have AI somewhere on the website and you don't have a text box somewhere, you kind of seem like, you are in the Stone Age. But I don't think long term this is something that will hold.
I don't know. I mean, first you're right. If it's just this one text box and it just looks like chatgpt.com, probably not going to happen. You have that proposals. So what should I query next? What should I prompt next? It's like, I don't know. But for example, if you have that nutrition, workout, and health tracking app, I come to that app with different goals every day. Like, is my nutrition on point? How can I improve my sleep? How can I do this and that? And is my workout plan still in place? And it's just quicker to have those shortcuts rather than to have an analytics menu that I click through to get to the right place. I go to health, heartbeat, sleep, whatever. Well, in that case, it's easier to have a chatbot-like interface, which is just a little bit more than that text box. In other cases, clearly not. If the questions that I have are always the same, how is my trend of visitors? How is my trend of conversions? Well, then certainly a dashboard would be fine with an additional chat box for like special queries that I only have once in a year. Sure. But all I'm saying is that there might be apps that are, no matter how much you think about them, are especially for consumers still too complicated.
So they would need to type in their questions, because before you mentioned there would be suggestion.
Well, yeah, maybe there will be suggestions. They can type it. These suggestions can change based on the history of the questions that the user already entered. I don't know.
The suggestions would be AI generated or...
Probably. Well, yeah. I'm not building a nutrition app.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting to me because I use Aura Ring, right?
Yeah.
This sleep stuff, right? And they introduced some kind of chat bot, and I think I used it twice or something. Because first it was like, okay, interesting, so tell me stuff. But then like I have zero interest in opening Aura app and just, chatting with the bot and like, tell me what, like how much deep sleep I have on average on the days when whatever I have a lot of activity, like, So generally it's like I open the app, I want to see some, basically 5 basic numbers and that's it, like,
Well,
Again, it might be just personal preference, maybe it's just me, simple person, but yeah.
Similar thing to me. I have this Fitbit Air. Got it a couple of weeks ago. Same with the Aura Ring. It doesn't have a display. It just collects data for me. I was like, very cool. That's a interesting alternative to that Whoop, which requires a subscription, right? So I got it. And of course, Google offered like 3 months premium with AI support and everything. And what they do, for example, is they send me a message. I don't go to the app and query something. They send me like a text message. Well, I noticed your sleep this day has been off. Here's what to do next. Here, care for your hydration. Postpone your workout until this and that time of the day. Take it lightly today. And then I can ask follow-up questions, some of which are already suggested. And I use it for a couple of weeks because I have 3 months left to go. I'm not willing to pay for that. That's not what I'm saying. But I use it more than actually looking at the diagrams, which is what I initially bought the whole device for.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but I think this is a bit of a paradigm shift.
Yeah, absolutely.
That will maybe happen. I mean, we're used to user interfaces, and I wouldn't say user interfaces are bad, but this is again a thing, not a one-size-fits-all solution. There will be products where more chatting will be fine. There are products where more manual work and good predefined user interfaces which you interact with are good. So, yeah, again, nuance to things and what you need and what's the best fit in the specific solution.
Exactly. If you nail me down to a prediction, I would say some consumer apps will be the way this Fitbit thing works. And most
where you
business
could
apps don't.
where you could argue that maybe there will only be one consumer app in the future, which is ChatGPT, or maybe 3, which is Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude.
I like how you take that idea further.
Yeah, because that's discussions I also had in the past with others. I mean, why would you then need other apps? Because that's enough, and the models are getting better.
I wouldn't bet one beer that these companies will actually survive in 5 years, but it's another discussion.
That's a completely different discussion. Yes.
with this, valuations, money invested, and the amount of customers who are actually willing to pay the real prices.
I mean, what I find very funny in that regard is that they started out with this consumer targeting, and now they're full on developer targeting as well. I mean, that shift in the past years, because that worked out, that is where the money is for them, and not so much for the consumers, because developers are now paying thousands of dollars for tokens, and consumers are paying. If it comes up $9 a month.
$9, 10 or 20, but the problem they have right now is the developers are actually not paying thousands of euros or dollars per month, and that's the whole problem. That's why they have these subsidized plans. So you pay 100 or maybe you pay 200 if you are God knows what doing with agents.
Yeah, at least with these subsidies, they're still paying more than the consumers.
But I don't think
they're still paying more.
Do they? Because actually, the trick here is subsidies. You pay 100 and you burn 2,000. So like, who is paying who?
I just mean, I don't know non-programmer paying 100 euros per month. They're always on the
Okay.
$10 plans or 20. That's
Yeah.
what I meant. Even I'm not talking about the token prices and API usage and so on. But still, for the subscriptions, developers are paying much more than normal people because that's where the main use case for AI is at the moment.
But that's because they are actually getting much more, right?
Yeah, exactly, and that's what
what they are getting is subsidized, right? So like it's kind of a good deal.
Yeah,
but
if somehow
I mean
you
the
manage.
subsidy is kind of justified because I mean long term, the developer market is probably not the main target for those companies. They make it look like it right now, but probably it's the other way around. We as developers are using their AI and actually help them writing programs on demand, which is then in turn could eventually turn out. So I mean, we talked a lot about like AI being a statistical or stochastic parrot, but now it's a stochastic parrot with tools. And if it can program for you, even if you don't ask it particularly to write a program. But if you ask it, okay, I need to analyze my data, and it automatically spills out a dashboard for you. And this is targeted at non-programmers. And we as developers are training them to how to do that.
The problem with this is that you don't know if that is correct.
Well, sure.
Nobody knows. That's the thing.
That wouldn't stop them from marketing this as correct.
Yeah.
And with the right safeguard, it gets close to correct. So maybe the long-term goal is
I still see this label everywhere, like AI can make mistakes, please verify all the outputs. So like I give you, I don't know, 100 megabytes of data, CSV files, right? You throw back at me some, analysis, and I should verify that. Like, so that what's the point of like whatever you did, right? I mean, like the AI. So I get the marketing, I get like what they are trying to do and where they are getting with this. Again, just not sure how they're gonna make it work.
But Bas, now you know why I say it yet when you ask me. Yeah, because now we are knee deep into it again, which is fine. I mean, it's the topic.
Absolutely.
We're
but
all.
let's yeah, please continue.
We also have to admit it is an exciting topic. I mean,
absolutely.
I cannot. Yeah, and yeah. I think that's why I was always in discussions nowadays. It's really a big move for humans to reach this level of intelligence. Now you can again argue about what intelligence is and that it's not intelligence and that it's but it's still a big move in some kind of direction. And I think that's also the nature of why people are talking about it so much. I mean, it also gives value. I think I still believe that it still gives value. I always still compare it with the crypto bubble back in the days, which didn't give so much value. But yeah, bubble is always a bubble, and there are negative sides to it and positive sides to it. Yeah.
Well, I would argue the crypto bubble gave a lot of value to certain people.
Some people.
And
yeah, true.
Same I mean, might be with the AI. We'll see.
Could argue about that. It's already the case. I mean, maybe it's just a bit better distributed into our direction, but yeah.
Maybe the AI bubble is much more like the .com bubble. I mean, most of the companies didn't survive, pets.com and I don't know what. But here we are.
The technology survives.
We have now the internet in our pockets and everyone is using it and there's no going back. So, okay, something similar will happen with AI. Don't know if OpenAI makes it or SpaceX or Anthropic or none of them. But this way of interacting with the machine will not go away so fast, if at all.
We'll see.
I think so too.
Are you still using AI in read-only mode, Micha?
Yes. So essentially, how to frame this? Yes, I'm writing all the code myself. Read only in the sense that I don't let AI write the code. I do let AI do stuff. So, super happy to execute commands and so on because, it's a defined workflow, asking questions and then executing some commands. I use it for that. That's actually something which I find very useful. Producing stuff, not so much. So again, it's more like my right hand in, like, you would tell secretary, like, send this, do this, parse this. Good for that, like, I have this CSV file or something, and not give me analysis, but like transform it so you use only the column, the 3, 5, and 7, right, and give me a new file. So it's pretty good for that. Easy to check the output. But not for writing the code. Which brings me back to Dominik. So we didn't ask you how you use AI for your work. Maybe let's at this point Vemetric, or you are the agent person who runs 20 agents during the night and then hoping for the best, or you do more like step-by-step stuff or something between?
I think that's a good way to describe it, step by step. But AI is writing a lot of code, but I still go through basically every line of code by reviewing it. So I still feel, if I compare myself to others on X and this mega AI hype, that I'm somewhat behind. I'm not using too many skills or what are the other things? Loops and so on. That's not what I'm using yet. I'm also not sure. Maybe I will give it a try. But I like Codex a lot. For my freelancing customer there, they use Cloud Code. So yes, I like working with it, and especially with Codex, for example, for Vemetric. And yeah, I enjoy working in that way, or I'm feeling that it's getting better, but I'm still, like you described it, step by step, like do that task for me, then hey, why didn't that work out? I also use it for debugging and testing, where it also helps me a lot. But there is still a lot of time for me in reviewing and rewriting code. If it's necessarily me rewriting or again the agent, it's still mainly the agent rewriting, but there's still a lot of rewriting happening because I'm not happy with the initial solution. But that got a lot of better in the past years. But still, I couldn't get away with the thought of not reviewing every single line to make sure that things are working as they should, especially for my users in production. And I just want to keep the understanding of what's happening under the hood, which is definitely not that good anymore than in the past when I wrote it on my own. I always described it with this kind of photographic memory, or where you're building up a map of things while you're writing stuff, and then it's in that corner or in that street is this thing located. That's definitely worse than before. This understanding and knowing where things are, but also you could argue that the agents help you in finding things way better. They know, or they can search through the code base, but yeah, maybe not too.
That last part, totally relatable.
Yeah,
I mean,
very
even
well
if
put.
you're, even if you read all the lines, you have a hard time finding them. If you look at it 2 weeks later, I mean, that was always the case, but that got harder with AI, at least for me. Totally relatable.
And that's exactly why I stopped. Because I was reviewing all the code, but that's not the same as writing it, right? And there is this saying, which is pain is the gain, and I think it applies here, although a little bit twisted, because it is a pain to write stuff by hand these days, because agent can do it faster, right? And also
Yeah.
better in the sense that it can do for you like proper 5, try catch whatever stuff, and you would maybe only do 2, or like you are lazy, so maybe just one general one. But it's I think it strips you of deeper understanding, and you don't feel pain of writing that code. Therefore, you are more what's the word for this? You are more willing to let it produce more code, and maybe suboptimal code as far as you understand it. But if you would
True.
have to write it, you would not. You would find better solution, different solution, and you would have deeper understanding. And this is something which totally, at least in my case, I totally lost, because reading the code is something else than writing the code. And even
Yeah.
if it's not AI, even if it's like PR from the colleague, again, like if your colleague wrote that code, he knows it much better than you if you are just reviewing the PR, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't frame it as hard, but I also have to admit that I'm still only working in projects where in the beginning, even in my freelancing client at my current project, in the beginning, I did things mainly without AI. So I got the main understanding of the code base, the architecture, and if you compare that to you didn't have that and you're coming, I can't imagine that because I didn't work in such a project yet, to be honest. Even my other projects, in the beginning, there weren't the AI tools and I have the understanding. I'm not sure how it is if you come into a project and immediately do it like this without getting the first knowledge and you know where things are located. Could be even worse, yeah. But at the moment, if I'm in a project where I have things made by hand, and now I'm working mainly with AI agents. I still feel like I know where things are, but because I'm reviewing them really thoroughly, and yeah, that's what I can't really get a hang of how and when this would get overcome. When do you overcome? When don't you have to review the things? Because I mean, in that situation, you can't need a programmer anymore, actually, because nobody has to go over the code. And I can't think of at the moment when this should happen because I don't can fully trust the agents yet to do that. Or also I want to have the understanding in that
Yeah,
regard.
well, somebody has to have understanding, right? I guess, even if it would not be developer. But I want to ask you, so how much is AI making you faster? And now I understand, like, for example, for me, AI is a big kind of speed up when looking up stuff. So much better to get basic idea about the topic, asking questions rather than reading, half of the book on something. Obviously, then I still need to go deeper and verify stuff when working on something, for example. But in terms of the coding, so you say you read all the code and you said you review all the code thoroughly and carefully. So what's the gain here? Like if you wrote the code yourself, and that's one scenario, that's the base scenario, right? You do stuff yourself. And instead now you prompt the agent, you tell him to write something, you do some back and forth, I guess, like this is not good, do it differently, this is not good, few rounds. And then I guess at the end you still review the whole thing. What's the gain here? Or what perceived? I guess you don't measure stuff, but like, what's your feeling? Like how much you gain in terms of speed of delivering feature?
Yeah. Because of the missing measurements, I'm not sure if I can give a serious answer to that. But again, I think it matters. It matters if it's maybe a small thing in a big project where you just do a small thing, the agent doesn't, there's not too much to review, but there's still this testing process and so on, which I can rely on because, as you said, it's executing comments and I know, hey, it's working. So in that regard, I think it definitely speeds up development because there are maybe some small tasks which can be done even quicker and just spit out by the agent. But on bigger tasks, the boost definitely gets less. But still, I mean, I can't answer it seriously because I don't do measurements here. But immediately you have the feeling like, oh, this whole of code that God produces, it has to be faster. But I find myself reviewing a lot, so a lot of time went on this. And then it's also, for me, a big of a problem, the focus switch, like what do you do when the agent currently generates things? I mean, maybe that's a bit different thing of a topic, but if I'm then scrolling again on social media and I'm losing time because of that, because the agent would already be finished like 10 minutes ago. I mean, we laugh about that, but for me, it's definitely also a problem, this context switching and not being in focus of my current task. You could already tackle 3 tasks in parallel, and then but then this is the real question: how much time do you really win, or how much faster are you really? But I can't answer it seriously.
I think
And that's the
that's
thing. I think nobody can, because nobody actually. First of all, it's very hard to measure, right?
it's super hard to measure.
Second of all, even if it's possible, I don't think anybody does it, because especially lately, like what was this Spotify talk with some cloud guy, like 70% of PRs is co-authored by cloud, and we deploy whatever 100 times a day, and like it tells you exactly nothing. Like, so, like you know that, like it's like line of code. You know,
Yeah, a useless
not,
metric. Oh,
yeah,
by the
useless
way, we
completely.
burned 7 trillion tokens
Yeah,
along the
like
way. Yeah.
yeah. So I burned like 5 liters of gas on my way to work. Like, how is that relevant? How is that relevant to anything?
What I think what Dominic says about like the attention that like you lose it. I think you always call it slot machine, Michal. Like I sometimes call it dopamine machine because it does
Yeah, it's
things
the
for
same
me
thing.
when I can just go to X. And I think this kind of behavior worsens even the attention span now from 2 angles. So you get free dopamine from the agent doing your work or pretends doing your work, and you get dopamine from scrolling on X mindlessly, and your attention span even get shorter. And what I've found, at least, I mean, to me, one of the biggest advantage in using AI is for prototyping, which is a scenario where you don't review the code. Actually, you just try things out. You're on an experimental phase, and you just want to get it run somehow. You don't care. Yeah. But then if you go to not read only but read harder mode, where you actually don't switch from your Claude, Codex, or whatever to x.com, but actually read the output. You do not a thorough review, but you get an understanding of what it's doing. Your prompts get different in the way that they get shorter, or the tasks get shorter. So like you tackle smaller tasks more iteratively, and I think that's a very good sweet spot to use it, and not being in the risk of, okay, now I'm losing 10 more minutes in YouTube X or Wikipedia rabbit holes.
I think it's still better than obviously doing the loops, and still better than make Vemetric better, make no mistakes. But again, that's not where I currently find the value. Where I find a lot of value is code reviews. So I write the code. I still work with the AI in the sense that it's my kind of a pair programmer, in the sense that I do the writing and he's advising. So like, looking up documentation, discussing maybe different approaches. I write the code. Before I even commit, I'm like, okay, I wrote this code and it should do X, Y, Z. Please review it. And often, more often than not, it finds mistakes, which obviously I missed, right? Handling this, or what about this scenario and something. Sometimes, obviously, it's wrong because it doesn't understand fully what and stuff. But that's very helpful. And that's something I think which makes code better, because I missed it, and potentially code reviewer can also miss it. It also makes the team faster in the sense that then code reviewer doesn't have to find it, doesn't have to write a comment. I don't need to read the comment. I don't need to fix it and put and push it, and the code reviewer doesn't have to review it again. So like this is really something where I find a lot of value in AI. So I think this technology is useful, and hopefully it stays for this. Not sure about other scenarios where it will magically write correct code and invent stuff, but like checking up on you for common mistakes, that's fine for me.
Very cool. I think we already have almost 1.5 hours, so it was super cool having you, Dominik. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. I enjoyed the talk a lot, so thank you to both of you.
We do it again soon, I guess.
Yeah,
would be awesome. Yeah.
Just a quick wrap up for you. Maybe you want to share where people can find you if they want to continue the conversation. You mentioned X. Are you on LinkedIn? Just drop your socials now. We will put them in the show notes then.
Yeah, exactly. So if people want to follow my journey building my products, I'm cross-posting to X, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, Threads. I would say my main platform is still X at the moment. So if people are interested, feel free to come by to my profile and check it out.
What was the handle? Just so we have it on the record.
The what?
The handle on X.
Dominik Sumer. But I think people are fine by just clicking the link if they want to see.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
And up until next time.
Have a good one. Cheers.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Cheers.